Thank you for your grace and thank you for your mercy. Lord God, meet them where they are. I thank you for everything that you have journeyed and brought Beth through. I thank you, Lord God, for the lessons that you taught her. And thank you for her heart to help other people. Come on, God, who's breaking generational curses, who's breaking generational strongholds. What if, Beth, you had such animosity and such hatred and anger for what your mom wasn't able to do? You would not be experiencing this generational healing going on.
It's not a right or wrong,
Right?
but it literally goes against something inside of me. Instead of fighting that and letting it make me feel less than, I just finally shifted into, oh, that's my sign that it ain't for me. Let me just go find what is for me, because when it's for me, it's made to be a lot easier.
Welcome back to another episode of the Digital Becoming Podcast. I am your host, your sister, your friend, your auntie, your transformational coach, Coach Nick. Today I'm super excited. I've been wanting to have this guest on for a while, and she is here with me today. You all are going to love our guest, our first guest, actually, of the Digital Becoming Podcast. God is so good. So today, I am sitting down with Beth Gatlin. Beth, who is a mother of two, owns the Healing Addict LLC, where her mission is to advocate for creativity as a path for healing when dealing with addiction and mental health. She is a full time performing musician. She sings so beautifully. She is a published children's book author and public speaker. She hosts her own podcast called Your Best Friend Beth on YouTube. Be sure to check that out. And she's a glow up from the soul up coach. Beth has a motto. Beth says she's just an ordinary person striving to live an extraordinary life and wants to empower others to do the same. Let's welcome to the Daily Becoming Podcast, Miss Beth Gatlin. Thank you so much for joining me today, Zorley.
Oh, thank you. You did that intro so well. I want you to do my intros from now on. You got me excited.
So tell me, Beth, how are you feeling, I should say, being here today?
I feel like it's meant to be, and it's just like fulfilling in this like outlet sort of way. I feel like I get to release some things today. I've been wanting to release. I don't even know what it is, but I'm excited.
Want to do it? Release on, my love. So I'm excited. I have to tell everyone we met a few months ago on a call with our life coach, business coach, and you were in the hot seat. You were
Yeah.
in coach's hot seat. And when you started talking, everything about you just resonated with me. I was drawn to it. And I know you have probably heard this. So this is not going to be unfamiliar words to you. There is something about you that just draws people,
Oh,
and it is just Beth being Beth. And when you told us that your podcast is called Your Best Friend Beth, and I think Coach Kelly had to kind of pull it out of you a little bit. And she's like, "That's you. That's where you
yeah.
need to be." And you are you. You do feel like that best friend that sometimes we don't talk to all the time, but when we get to catch up, it's like so real, it's so raw, and it's so warming because we live in a world where everybody's doing what everyone else is doing, and we live in a world where everyone tells you to have this, you have to do this, and this. So everyone is doing it. And then you have a best friend, Beth, that is so authentic. She is so her. You are my glass twin soul because we love glasses. So I'm so excited. I immediately went and found your podcast. I love what you're doing. It's short, it's to the point. It's get yours and go. I just love everything about it. And I'm so grateful that you said yes. So with all that being said, and you're probably like really tired of me throwing you all these compliments.
No, I'm gonna eat them all up, but I do very humbly appreciate that though. It makes me feel seen, and I don't seek validation, but man, I enjoy when it comes, and it's so nice to be like seen in the way that I want to be seen. Like that's exactly what I would want somebody to feel. So that's beautiful. I appreciate this moment. Thank you.
I love that because who doesn't want to be seen as themselves? You show up as you. That's the best thing you can do, and the best
Yeah,
compliment when you get to a place in life where you can show up as you. I want to ask you, Beth, how does it feel just on social media? We'll take that. Just on social media, where we are in a sea of other life coaches, we are in a sea of other musicians. You're around other mothers. All the things that you do, and it's a sea of people doing it. Is there ever a temptation to maybe I should start doing this? Maybe I should tweak that and do a little bit more of that. Maybe I should pull back on this. Do you ever have that temptation, and what do you do about it?
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like there has been a good 6 months where I felt in my spirit like I needed to shift some things. But instead of just trying, doing, seeing what steps to take from within myself,
Hmm.
I was looking at what I should do. Like, oh, I want to do this and this. Well, what are the steps others have taken? I don't remember the saying that just came to my mind, but it was like, the wheel's already made, don't remake the wheel, so to speak.
Will. Hmm.
Yeah, so, like that's what my mind would go to, but it just produced more stress. And I tend to have like an ADD brain and get overwhelmed very easily. And I've learned over the last 6 months that I'm not overwhelmed and it's not like a lacking inside of me. That wasn't authentic feeling. And that didn't feel like it meshed with my own integrity, as weird as it is to have integrity about how to create something else. It's not a right or wrong, but
Right.
it literally goes against something inside of me. Instead of fighting that and letting it make me feel less than, I just finally shifted into, oh, that's my sign that it ain't for me. Let me just go find what is for me, because when it's for me, it's made to be a lot easier. No matter how hard I'm working, it feels good. And so that's been my map now.
Love that. You had to tap into and own that feeling of anxiety and overwhelm and probably stress. Because if you're anything like me, trying to do like everybody else is doing is stressful as heck. You tapped into that, and instead of it making you feel less than and want to give up, you were like, wait a minute, hold on. Let me check in with Beth. Beth is saying that's not us. We don't do that. Why are you
Yeah.
trying to be them? Why not be you? I so love that. So when you tapped into it, and you started just saying, I'm just gonna be Beth. Beth is who Beth is, and I'm gonna show up as that. Did you find there was more freedom? Do you now enjoy it more? What was it like once you finally just said, forget it, I'm just gonna be me?
So the biggest way I've been able to see progress is with my music, because I grew up with a brother who's been doing professional music for years and years and years. And so when I started, I had him to look up to and ask questions. And things that he said were helpful, but I couldn't follow the route that he presented to me, and it made me very insecure and very
Mm-hmm.
nervous, and I felt judged in places where my own mind would be telling me things. Nobody else would be speaking to me in these judgmental ways, but in my own mind, all of a sudden I can read minds and I feel their feelings, and oh, everybody hates me,
Everybody's
nobody
saying,
is enjoying this. And it's funny because like I'm very secure in my voice and confident in my talent. But as a creative, I need you or whoever, I need my tribe to receive what I'm trying to put out into the world in
yeah.
order to feel fulfilled. And I never could get that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me focusing on, well, this is what is presented to me as the roadmap
Mm-hmm.
to make money and to get fans and to get a following and to get jobs.
Right.
But there was also the other side of me continuing to follow the little steps my gut would say. So I didn't give in to the fear. I didn't stop doing what my gut said, but it was constantly a battle. Oh, I need to focus on this or I need to focus on that. I need to go with my gut or I need to go with the system presented to me. And I was going back and forth, back and forth. And eventually I noticed my gut got me further, easier. And eventually it became too exhausting to fight my mind. And and during this experience, I ended up getting into therapy for multiple reasons. And I was able to to own my brain and the responsibility I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself mentally.
Mhm.
And it was a way for me to learn how to let go of my head and dive into my heart instead of a place of pain and past shame and seeking validation, not going into my heart for that reason, but going into my heart for authenticity and and what felt like truth and what my gut was trying to take me toward because it's always got the best way.
I love everything that you said. I pulled out so many delicious nuggets. The biggest one is the authenticity. What is that? Let me saying this word. The authenticity. You talked about your gut leading you. When authenticity is saying that's not you being you, that's not you being you. Do you feel like it begins to speak to you in your gut, like it's that inner voice saying, "We need to go left. Why are we still trying to go right? What are you doing, Beth?" And that's the uncomfortability that we feel.
Yeah, so for me, I'd say there's not words often. There's just a very intense, overwhelming feeling.
Yes, that.
And towards the beginning of it, I would feel like it meant something was wrong
Mhm.
because it would be a halt, like a stopping, like making you pause sort of feeling. And my body's been programmed to feel adrenaline and be scared. Like my nervous system is regulated from fear and unsafe living, emotionally, physically, whatever from my past. So in the last few years where I've been able to heal and make more authentic choices and build my life the way I want it,
Mhm.
um, my body's had to get used to, oh, I'm feeling these feelings, but it's not from a place of unsafety. It's not from a place of stop your whole life and change everything. It's from a place of this is just communication, receive it with love and kind of pay attention to it. So it brought me to a place of learning how to pause for a moment and really just ask myself what's going on. And
Yeah,
sometimes words do come, but it takes some time for me to really understand it. It's either that or right away I know what to do. There's no thinking about it. The words will show up. Like, I know it's weird maybe, but I feel it in my gut to my chest, and it's
yeah,
just like it just comes up out of me with no thinking at all. And
yeah.
that's the best. That's the easiest. There's no time for fear. There's no time for questioning. And that can show up as a song, or it can show up like right now. It's all just going to come out.
We're helping so many people right now. I know we just kind of jumped into. We didn't even. Y'all, we're gonna talk about who Beth is and why she's on the show in a minute. But I really feel like we needed to tap into that because I believe a lot of people are at the place. The show is called Daily Becoming Podcast, where they're wanting to become the best version of themselves, not the
Mhm.
best Beth, not the best Beth lookalike or the best. I'm trying to compete with Beth. I'm just trying to be the best me that I can be, and to really encourage people on that journey. When again we are in a sea of, if you want to be successful, follow these 5 steps. If you want to have this, follow these 12 steps. And sometimes I love the way you use the word systems. Sometimes systems are great, but you got to know when to walk away from a system. You have to know how we would say in the country, eat the fish, leave the bones on the table. Take what you can to get you to the next level in something that you're trying to do, but don't lose you in the process. Your journey
Yeah.
to success should never lose you. You should always grow and become better, and you should be enhanced. But we should never lose you. Like, I think if I were to go to your social media 2 years from now and I can't tell who the heck this is anymore, I don't know what to do. Not because you've grown, but because Beth has just decided I'm going to be like Sally. Your best friend's Beth is now Sally. You understand what I'm saying?
Totally get it. And that's exactly right. Um, it's funny, there's a video I posted a while back on TikTok or something, and it's like step one of the most incredible transformation you could have is love yourself
Oh, yes,
because you're not going to be able to be authentic to who you are if you can't love yourself.
yes.
Yeah. You have to learn who you are before you can even love yourself. You have to learn who you are before you really know what you want. Because for a long time, I wanted to be a singer, but it was from a place of validation. I thought it was all I had to offer that
Hmm.
felt good enough for me. And I learned I had to let that go. And I gave up the idea of I'm a singer. I would sing as a hobby, but I never for 1 second thought that I would get back to singing as a career at all. Like that was not in my brain at all. And eventually I learned to let it go and I learned what the validation I was seeking. And it's been a long time, a long amount of journey, so to speak. But I eventually realized that the validation I sought, nothing could give it anyway. Nothing could
Right.
give it anyway. If you're seeking validation, it's because you're accepting shame
Oh,
or guilt or yeah. And I was accepting so much shame, so much shame.
wait, okay. Wait, not gonna be that's that statement. Hold on and rewind. Uh, if you're seeking validation, it's because
Yeah, you're accepting shame.
you are accepting shame. Girl, if you don't unpack that one, please.
Oh man, it just felt like my whole life was built on I am shameful because I was given away. I was never wanted. I had all of these feelings, and if people knew I had these feelings, they would know I was broke because I didn't know that feelings are a part of being human. I
Mhm.
thought if I was feeling neglected, it was a sign that I was not worth being taken care of. And this was like my 4-year-old mind telling me this. I have lots of therapy. I was able to pinpoint the exact night where it was programmed in my brain. I can never let anybody know that I feel these feelings and have this feeling of I'm not worthy. And I didn't have those words, but this is what I was understanding and feeling as a 4-year-old. And from that point on, I'm not worthy of my feelings, and I need to do everything I can to get love by being the best Beth that I can be. So
Yeah.
I was always strong. I was
Mhm.
always focused on my talents to show the
Yeah.
world. And I was always a listening ear for everyone else so that I could be useful and feel needed and worthy of their love. And God, it nearly killed me.
Girl, I promise you, we were twins in another life than you, but I think we were twins because I understand those feelings exactly. So now let's talk about 4-year-old Beth. What was life like? First of all, where are you from? And then after you ask the question, what was life like for 4 to 7-year-old Beth growing up?
I was adopted when I was 3, and there was a lot of confusion and trauma surrounding it,
Mhm.
between sexual abuse allegations to just not appropriately handling communicating with a toddler on what's going on
Right.
and the changing of living situations. Plus, I was still in the life of my birth mom and my biological sisters, and everything was just very confusing, but I never communicated a need for, I didn't know my own needs, let
Right.
alone communicate. So it was a lot of love, enough to make everything that was traumatic for me seem normal, and enough to make it seem like I shouldn't feel the feelings that were so hurtful. And so I stayed quiet, and as I've journaled and written and tried to write different books and things like that, something that stuck with me for forever now, and I probably won't even put in the book when I was writing, was depression raised me. That's really what it felt like. Depression and anxiety raised me.
Hmm.
It kept me in this tiny little box where I felt very constricted, and I only allowed people to see what I thought was worthy of being seen, and it led me to seeking validation in
Yeah.
the ways that I thought I deserved to, through sex, through drugs, through being a good friend, a good girlfriend, an easygoing, go with the flow person. Yeah. So
People
that's
performing.
yeah, and that was all between 4 and 7 years old that I learned to
Yeah.
do that.
Hmm. Because we want the approval, we want the love, you want to make the adults happy. So sometimes you do all the performing things to make them
Yeah,
happy, even if it's just being really good,
yeah,
even if it's just being really quiet, even if it means not telling them what you're feeling, as you said, what's been going on. I know for me, it was keeping the secret of what was happening to me sexually. You understand what
mhm,
I'm saying? So I absolutely get that performing and that people pleasing and Beth becoming whatever Beth needs to become because I need everyone to be happy, especially if you didn't know how to voice the confusion that you were seeing and feeling, but you could feel it.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
body could, yeah. So you were adopted. Did you know at the time, like, was there a knowing at the age of 3 that you were being adopted, or was that something that you had to discover when you got older?
It wasn't something that I understood exactly, but I remember the day my mama told me to call her mama, or at least she was reminding me maybe. I remember I was watching The Lion King and she told me to call her mama. I was like, okay. I just remember the feeling I had, very confused, but very excited and loved feeling at the same time. Um, and I remember just my body, the way that it felt. It was
Mhm.
like a very uncomfortable, like vibrating sort of in my skin. So like I was just constantly unsettled in my soul.
Mhm.
I crave comfort and nature and beauty, and I'm a hippie at heart, and I've always been that way. And so I sought comfort even at that little, and it was through food. So
Mhm.
that's where I found my comfort was food. From the get, food was my best friend. I remember going and getting handfuls of cereal, handfuls of chips all day long. Whenever, because I was 3. My youngest sibling, adopted sibling, or my biological sibling was like 15, 16 years old. So
Oh,
and yeah, so it was just me. My parents
yeah.
were older and they would nap. My dad was working, or they were preachers. So we would be at church a lot. And I mean, not to say that they were neglectful, in any way, that they parented the best they knew how, but I was left to myself and my feelings, and I ate those constantly.
I have actually said once before that depression and food were basically what raised me when I was growing up. They were so familiar, they were comfortable. It may sound funny to say as an adult, but when you're a child, depression is comfortable because you start withdrawing. You draw inwardly, you distance yourself, you understand what you're thinking on your insides and what you're feeling in your heart and all these sad emotions. You understand them well because you have them all the time. Here's what you don't understand and what makes it uncomfortable is that no one else does. No one else does. And if you are able to verbalize it, they don't get it. You're a child. What are you depressed about? What are you sad about? What do you possibly have to be upset about? You don't pay bills. Life hadn't hit you yet. So I learned to just be quiet and keep it all in. However, I had this thing. I had God, right? God was always this thing. I could talk to him. I didn't know if he was listening. Sometimes it really didn't feel like it. And then there was this God that you learned about at church was a little bit different than the one who used to talk to me when I was in my room, but I loved to learn about him. And so I would talk to him about everything that I was feeling. You said that your parents were preachers. Did
Mhm.
you relationship with God? Did you understand who God was when you were growing up? Did you talk to him about the things that you were feeling in your heart?
For me, I was very headstrong with my integrity from the get go,
Mhm.
from the point of you could not make me do anything that was emotionally connecting to me that
Mhm.
I didn't feel and that wasn't authentic to me. So it's not that I didn't believe in God, because my church, as crazy as things got, God and church has been like a very big journey of ups and downs throughout my life. But no matter what, God and the truth of the capabilities and the miracles and the peace,
Mhm.
it rang true to me for a long time. But I didn't understand how to have a relationship. I didn't understand what it felt like to me outside of church. And I could barely feel it at church sometimes because things were just so hard for me in
Right.
general. Emotionally, I think I would often escape mentally. And that's the time where I would be in my head, like just trying to mentally escape and make stories up in my head. So I didn't really experience church often, especially as I got older. But there was something that was placed inside of me,
Mhm.
a seed of sorts that was there and that I can feel now. And I'm like, oh, that was then that got placed, a good foundation for sure.
What is your relationship like with your parents now?
So, long story short, my mom and dad divorced eventually, late in my teens. And my dad and I ended up not speaking for 10 years. My mom and I have had ups and downs, but our love has remained throughout. And there was never a time of where we weren't mom and daughter. But I ended up seeing my dad in 2019. He's still preaching and doing his thing
Mhm.
with church. And Our relationship was very, I don't know how to explain it other than it's just been a long journey of forgiving for me.
Yeah.
Because if it was just up to words, yeah, I forgive you because I'm not a grudge holder. That pain, man, that pain was there. And judging, it's hard to not judge someone when you have that pain. Like just my perception, I couldn't change it. I just couldn't fake it even. So it was very surface level relationship the last since 2019 to 2022, 2023. But there's a couple of mentors I've had that were able to really see my heart in the situation and speak to me some things to where I was able to open up and just continually release that pain over and over and over again. And I was able to let go of seeking validation from my dad
Yeah.
and letting go of what that looks like and letting go of why I even needed it because it had nothing to do with him. You know, it was within the last year I was able to let that go, and it took me specifically intentionally saying, "I'm letting it go," and like somebody suggested, I just put my pain in a box, put a bow on it, and just send it away and mentally inside my head anytime it came up, and that's what I did, and I and that's all that's really the only thing that I did specifically, and something shifted in my mind and my heart in the last 6 months or so, and it's been the best. My dad's the type to where, we don't have to talk regularly. He has specific things that I like to talk to him about. And for a while, that was like, oh, I can't just call you about anything and it feels fulfilling. But
Yeah.
now I really appreciate that. Like, I appreciate we have a passion for books. I appreciate that he's so encouraging about my business and about my music. He just gave me the most beautiful guitar, and oh my God, it touched my whole heart. And it's been awesome playing it. But it's an appreciation for him that I've never got to have before through this journey of forgiveness. And I mean, I don't know about him, I haven't even felt the need to go back and talk about the past.
Yeah.
So I can't say what his journey's been on it, but that's also kind of beautiful. I don't need to know because I feel the love and I'm able to receive the love from a dad that I didn't think I would have. Those 10 years, I thought it would be like that forever. So it's awesome. It's an awesome place to not need validation of his love and to have to ask, well, how are you feeling? I don't have to ask, like, I just feel it and receive it.
That's a whole word right there. First of all, let's just hold space for the beauty of healing and reconciliation. That is so
Yeah.
beautiful. So grateful that you didn't have such a wall built up that you just said, forget about it. It's been 10 years. He hadn't been here all this time. I'm good that you allowed that space for it to happen. And then let's hit on what you just said. If we all could get that type of relationship with God, we I can't speak for everybody. I would be in such a much better place in my life just to receive his love and not question it, just to trust it. I don't have to ask you, well, are you sure? Because I didn't do this though. Like, still feeling like I wasn't good enough to get that. I'm grateful for it, but shouldn't I have been this way first? Because we are programmed, even as children, when it comes to God, you're supposed to be perfect, and it's not said in those words, but it's taught in so many different, so many unspoken ways. And God just wants to love us. He just wants to be our husband. He just wants to be our father. That's all he wants to do. And when you said that about your dad, like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to the validation. He just wants to love me. He gave me a gift and I cherish it. And if we could just feel that way about God, it would change so much.
Absolutely. Like the idea of receiving love is never taught. How do you receive love? Nobody ever talks about how to receive love. Like, especially as a woman, we don't receive compliments. Oh
Mhm.
no, you're so much more beautiful. Or no, I'm fat. Or no, I don't,
Right.
that don't look good on me. My hair a little. Girl,
Mhm.
I receive a compliment now. I will
Mhm.
receive that compliment. And it's been because it's been such a long process to receive affirmations from myself. And one thing I've been very interested in is learning the mental part and how it works with the spiritual part. and
Hmm.
how it works with sociology and how our perspectives affect everything and how our nurture versus nature, like everything intermingles. And if I don't receive love from other people, I'm not receiving love from myself. And that's
Right,
just a reflection of that.
right.
So there's so much to it, so much to it. But it starts with receiving love from yourself. You
Hmm.
learn how to do that.
Hmm.
Then you're able to receive love from others. And it's all a reflection of you receiving God's love. You
Yes.
can't receive God's love fully if you don't receive love from yourself. I think it's very connected and sacred and divine to self love.
I love that, and I love how you basically broke it down. We're not taught how to receive love, but we are taught what you need to do to get it, and it's all
Yeah.
action. If you're not doing this, you're not going to get that. That is not how love comes. Love is not necessarily earned. It's usually given. Someone loves you, however, and but with the way we think, that is how people can fall out of love. And that is how people have conditional love. Because I love you as long as. Now you're
Mhm.
doing all this, Beth. Girl, me and you are here. But the moment you don't do it, the moment you don't pick up the phone when I call, the moment you don't have time for us to go have drinks, all of a sudden that love starts to fade away. Was it ever really love?
Right.
And if we don't unlearn some things, if we don't unbecome some things, we're never going to become
Yeah.
fully who we need to be. And a lot of the times it takes something you may have been taught for 20 something years to say, you know what, I need to unlearn that because that has not served me or it's no longer serving me. So now you have this great man who's coming to your life, ladies who are struggling in this area. This great man is coming to your life and you're so used to receiving what you thought was love a certain way that everything he does, you're going to fight him tooth and nail when all you have to do is receive. All you have to do is just be. He just loves you just because you're you. No, you don't have to do X, Y, and Z. He just loves you because you're you. You do the X, Y, and Z as an extra thing. That's an extra way that you're expressing love to him. But that's a whole nother show and a whole nother episode. Did you want to say something on that before we move on?
You know what it made me think of is something that I've really been brewing in my spirit and haven't put the words out loud yet
Mhm.
is I think it's like a great representation. Like you make love to make a baby. Love is the foundation of life itself.
Yeah.
And we're taught that love is a gift you get, but
Hmm.
love is natural and love is innate. Love is a right that you have as a person and human and spirit. And it's not something to be given, it's something to allow. And that's
Hmm.
receiving and giving, like receiving and allowing. And it's just so beautiful to know that the act of making love creates life. The act of receiving love will put that life inside of you. And in turn, you're allowing it to come out of you. And I think that's the whole key to the world changing for love's sake, you know?
Girl, I love that. I hope you're right about that. Or put that in one of your songs. Ooh,
Yes, ma'am.
those are beautiful lyrics. Do not steal them. Those are hers. That bad. So let's talk. You are a musician. When is the first time, however old you were, that you were like, I can sing, or I love to sing, or did you pick up a brush and sing it to the brush handle? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, I was very young singing. I sang in church. I was about 6. I vaguely remember my mama hearing me sing a song that was playing on a TV show or something, and she had me sing it at church as a surprise for my dad, if I remember correctly. I was real young.
Yeah.
And from then on, she would buy me these cassette tapes that would have the music on it and allow me to sing in church. My brothers, they played guitar, they sang. My sisters, they sang and actually taught me how to do harmony at a very young age. And it's just been in me from the get go. Every single holiday event my family gets together, we're singing, we're playing music. It's a church service.
Yeah.
That's I don't know any other way. I
Yeah.
never felt valid and like I had a right to just get up and go show off. I always had to be begged and pushed, but it's always been in me. I eventually got into theater in high school, marching band, and that's where I really found my permission, where I gave myself permission to show off and be the best, and I was able to really hone that passion and find my drive for it. But eventually, with depression and anxiety, it couldn't take me nowhere. There was no life created in it because it was coming from a place of shame and fear still. Like everything was just being built off of that. So after high school, it kind of came to a halt.
Mm. How many years was did that halt last?
I got pregnant within a year out of high school. And I remember being like in pain when I sing. Like it hurt almost every now and again when I would sing. It would just be kind of hurtful. So I didn't do it often. But at a certain point after I had my second child, I was like 22, maybe 21. I was having trouble bonding with my daughter, and I ended up turning some music on like karaoke one day, and she was 2.5, but she loved it. Like we sat down and sang together, and she ended up singing her songs, and I'd sing my songs, and so that was the first time where it felt healing since high school. That was the first time I had felt that in a long time, and so I would do karaoke like in my house then, but I think it was 2019 that it awoken in me in a new way. And I had the year before that is when I had my addiction issues and a year of suicidal ideation. It took a like hitting rock bottom to decide. I think I need to touch on what I really want in my authentic life.
Before we get to talking about your journey of healing from addiction, let's talk about the years of depression that you went through. I love that you publicly talk about it when you do some of your TikToks or in your podcast or even on your Instagram sometimes. I caught one of them where you were talking about how you hid it. And that really struck me because people can hide addictions, people can hide all kind of things, but hiding depression is not necessarily easy. So, what was it that caused your depression and how did you hide it? How was it that no one around you knew that you were depressed?
Yeah, my mom, I think, could see a little bit throughout high school and she's very empathic and like could feel me at times. I think she had hints and would call it depression, but from my perspective, she saw me want to sleep a lot. She saw me feeling lack of motivation or stressed,
Yeah.
things like that. But there was no like, oh, you're like it's dangerous. But I think it was primarily hidden because as I grew up with my babies, I had to be strong for them. I was with their dad, who was very toxic for me, off and on abusive. And it was like I knew in the back of my mind, I didn't trust myself to do what I needed to do to take care of my kids. So I
Mhm.
had to stay with him. I wasn't good enough to go do anything that was even remotely going to take care of them in the way they deserve to be taken care of. So my lack of worthiness and my lack of belief in myself was the cycle that kept me with him. And because I knew I wouldn't leave him, I didn't want to put myself through the shame of talking about what was going on, and it really intensified the cycle of hopelessness and worthlessness, and the more things would happen, the more worthless I would feel, and the more intense that secret felt. Like I remember at the big blow up point of my life with my mental health started with my cousin. She was having a mental health crisis.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, I ended up being the person that was trying to get her taken to get help. Come to find out, it was drugs. We had no idea.
Yeah.
And she ended up on life support within 24 hours. And, it was very traumatic. And I remember standing there looking at her on life support with my aunt, and it was the first time I said something like this out loud. And I was like, wow, I really thought it would be me, like on life support or almost dying or something. It just was very emotional to even say something like that out loud. But I liked the way it felt. And I followed that a little bit.
Yeah.
And eventually I found myself talking to a friend from work, crying. I didn't have words, but I expressed the best I could my hopelessness. I remember telling somebody else at my job about how just, I don't know, I think I'm just meant to die. Like, I think it might be better if I die. And, I don't think anybody still picked up on, how dangerous I was at. But what it did for me was awaken a curiosity to where I ended up saying, all right, I'm changing my life.
Mm,
Do or die 2018 was my motto that
yeah.
year. Do or die. And I was serious. I will die before I don't change things. And I knew that I would die. They thought it was like I'm gonna work myself to death. Nah, like I'm gonna have to kill myself if this don't change.
Mm,
And that's how serious it was. Um, and it's funny because I think that time in my life showed me the difference of, okay, you can decide to change your life, but if you're building it from shame and seeking validation, you're going to keep staying in the same cycles, and it just might make it worse and worse and worse. Because that's exactly what it did. That's what led me to drugs. That's not to say you shouldn't try to change your life, because you should. And I ended up finding what I needed in the midst of drugs, even. It's not like I have a belief of, I think God will take you down a road of drug addiction, but I think addiction was in my blood from the get go. I think it was in my path from the get go. For whatever reason, generation to generation to generation in my biological family had, these issues. People have died from it. I just think it was a walk I had to walk out, no matter what, whether it would have been food, you know, and it has been food, but it ended up becoming drugs, and that's where my rock bottom was. But that's where I was in 2018. Do or die. It took me to drugs, and that's where my rock bottom showed me, oh, I don't have to build from shame and seeking validation.
you were at the end of you. You were at rock bottom. You were at the
Yeah.
end of the rope. I love when we get there, we can actually see better. We get to rebuild and start over. It's the worst place to feel, but it's the best place to be in, especially when you've tried all that you know. God comes in, He comes in this new way and begins to help you rebuild your life. You see things differently. You wonder, why did I never know this before? How could I not see this then the way that I see it now? What were at least two things when you had hit rock bottom? And I would say in the depths of the addiction, what were at least two things that you knew were going to help you climb out of it? Something that you discovered about you? Was it something that you did? Was it therapy? Like, what were those two things?
I think for me, number one was there was like this tiny ball of light that made me hold on. I didn't understand it, but I could feel it in my gut. And I knew as long as that was there, it was a sign to keep going. And that's why I didn't kill myself to begin with. And that was what I was following. That's what gave me my instincts. And the time that I went from rock bottom to enlightenment, so to speak,
Mhm.
was in the middle of a drug binge, and I was talking and I was being curious and I was trying to really figure out where, like, how did I get here? Like, how did depression and anxiety turn into a drug addiction? And I'm
Right,
sitting here in a trap house full of other drug addicts, like just walling around in all of our terrible shame.
right.
And in the middle of me speaking, it was like that, where that little tiny ball of light filled my body up. And it was like in a heavy emptiness, dark, dark, dark feeling. And that light just filled all of the darkness. And it was like a cloak of shame that was like covering my eyes. So I looked through a lens of shame on
Right.
everything, and it came off. And it was like I was able to see from the perspective of my spirit for the first time. And little did I know, I think that's what it was. That little tiny ball of light was my spirit, and it wasn't weak by any means. I think it was protected. I think it was protected all those years, and nothing could touch it. And it was there. It was me. That
Yeah.
was me, but I just didn't know it. It was just a lack of awareness. And once it became fully embodied, it was just like a like a weight
Mhm.
had been lifted.
Yes.
And when I looked at things, there was hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the lack of shame left room for hope. And and I think that's the biggest shift ever that I had was my perspective always has room for hope.
Mm,
So often we want to just act like we know the facts and this can't happen. I can't feel this way or I can't do this. If you have a desire, there's a scripture that says God will give you the desires of your heart. I don't think that means God will hand you the desires that you're seeking. I think God placed those desires in you for you to go create.
mhm.
And I think if we don't find the hope in the perspective of the spirit, then we're doing ourselves a disservice and we're just keeping ourselves in those same cycles over and over. So hope is number one. Always leave room for hope and self love in any perspective. It doesn't mean things have to go your way, but that's going to give you the bridge to the way you need to go, whether you think it or not at that point.
Oh, so good. Always leave room for hope. Do you feel at the depth, the deepest part of having the addiction, then thank God for your healing, that there was no sight of hope? It was there, but you just couldn't see it.
So, in the deepest part of my addiction, there was only death, and I was just waiting for it. Um,
Mm,
I'm the most blessed person in the whole world because my kids were protected through all of it,
yeah.
and they have their own trauma surrounding it for sure. But their image of their mother was protected, and I'm so thankful for that. Like, they have been able to see me from a place of my mama like grew up. She had these issues, but her love was strong the whole time, and now she's finding healing, and so I'm blessed for that. But you know, there was a time where like it was just it was just a journey of learning how to change perspectives in every stage of life. Because, I thought you had to figure it out and just change. And then all of a sudden, you're the person you're supposed to be. But no, man, like it eventually got to the point where each stage you're allowing your perspective to change. Like, I think that's what it talks about in the Bible, having the heart of a child. You're
Yeah.
allowing yourself to learn at each point. You don't ever have to feel shame for not having the right perspective and needed to make sure you're in control. I think the art of letting go is that heart of the child, like
Yes.
letting go of the reins is the heart of a child.
Mm. And I love that you said that the heart of the child is also, most children look to their parents to do it, to figure it out, to teach them to fix it. And you can be 58, 68, and you can be 98. We still have to look to God. And we have to
Yeah.
have that childlike heart. And what I love about a child doesn't feel like they need to do anything to get what they want from their parents. They don't, they don't even have to do what they're supposed to be doing to get what they need from their parents. And that's how we have to be. I also love when you said, I think you set somebody free when you said this, and I want you to rephrase it because I'm going to mess it up. You thought at one point you had to figure everything out, then the change comes, and some told you that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Please about that for a moment.
It's something that's been in my spirit again that I haven't put out loud in words, but something in me clicked in the last year where the art of like becoming is our only job. Like it's not about the destination, it's about how you embrace, the movement and how you dance with life and letting go of the picture but allowing the paintbrush to just keep moving. And do you want the paintbrush that is painting rigidly and just very hard lines and
Yes.
dark shadows, or can you dance with life and it be something flowy and natural and nature and just made with love, and that can look different to people. To me, that's flowy and beautiful, and I feel like it's important to have a vision and it's important to have a feeling you're going after,
Mm-hmm.
but don't tell the picture what to be. Let the picture become. And we're constantly making that picture. It's not about what the whole picture is supposed to be because, it's not just about us.
Fact.
That's another part of becoming. It's not about me. And
Yes.
once I let that go too, the end all is not who I become. There is no end all. It's
Yeah.
life is life is life is life. No matter
Yeah.
what happens to me, no matter what happens next year, I mean, like the love that I put out into the world, that's all I got to worry about. That's all I think about. What does that look like? That's the only time I ask myself, what should this look like? Like, what do I want it to look like today? That's just to be more intentional. But,
Mhm.
even that's not important because love is going to love, no matter what.
When you were talking, Beth, oh, life is the canvas, and the artist is God, and we're the paint. And when I heard you say, "Can we just dance? Can we just let the paint do what it needs to do?" I just kept seeing me dancing with the colors. if we just would dance with the colors. And when you say, do you want the harsh lines? And sometimes life can be harsh lines and too much of a smudge here, and it needs to be kind of buffed out there. But I think when we try to take control of that paintbrush, we make the line harder and we distort the picture that God is trying to create and trying to make with our lives. If we would just be calm and just dance with the colors. Girl, I had a whole entire visual moment when you were talking. Dance with the colors, and every day wake up and say, God, you are the artist and the creator. I am your masterpiece. What do you want to create in me, through me today? What do I need today? Sometimes you may want to kind of whitewash a little bit, take out some of that yellow. Your yellow is hard. Your red is really hard. So whatever he wants to do as the artist, let him do it. Beth, if I tell you, you just help somebody on their journey to becoming. When you said, can we just dance? Can we just dance? Girl, Beth, girl,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know it. You said to me, I don't know what is this. Got a lot inside of me. I'm ready to say it. I'm ready to do it. Girl, you got a lot. And my prayer was, before we even came on backstage, was, God, whatever she needs to say, whatever I need to ask to pull it out of her so the people can receive what they need. You can meet them where they are. He is doing that through you. Can I just say thank you again? Because you are blessing me today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ooh, now you don't know it, but the title of today's episode is called Becoming Beth. So we are learning this beautiful cadence, this beautiful dance, this beautiful journey that Beth has been taking from then to now to become the best version of her. And I'm just grateful because you didn't have to say yes. Okay, I want to ask you, what is one thing that you have been afraid to do, but you were so happy that you did it anyway?
There's so much. I will say ask for help. So afraid to do. And this has been since 2018, asking for help each stage of my life since then. My life is built on the backs of those who love me. Absolutely. No matter what I do, they're the foundation of it all. And I mean, in 2018, I lost my car. I left the house I lived in. And I was working at first, but lost my job. And essentially was either going to have to live in this trap house with these drug addicts that got more dangerous and more dangerous and more dangerous, or ask for help. And my family like received me, multiple family members received me with open arms and no judgment, just grace and freedom and trust. The trust to, because drug addicts sometimes that addict nature takes over and takes advantage, and they have to learn how to take care of themselves first before they can get to that point. But for me, thank God I was able to really embrace the help and have time to heal. And it's funny because I would say during the drug addiction that I'm so exhausted, I just need space and time to just get rest. Like my soul needs rest.
Yeah.
And when I asked for help, I was able to go stay with my aunt for a few weeks, and I would go on her porch every morning, and there would be deer, there was woods around, and I got the rest. My kids couldn't be with me while I lived there, and they didn't live with me while I was on drugs either. They lived with their dad, and I would see them like once a week, maybe twice a week sometimes. And to go to my aunt's meant I didn't get to see them as much at that point, but that gave me the space and the room to get that rest. And it was a place where I was able to just have what I needed come to me. There was no chasing anymore. There was nothing around to chase. I just sat in solitude. I mean, I would watch TV and stuff here and there, but I was ready to receive at that point. And the spiritual experience I had where that light filled up inside of me, I knew there was more coming. And so I was at a place where I could rest up and get ready to move on. And so that's what I did. My aunt gave me that ability. Then my mom and my stepdad let me move in with them. There, I was closer to my kids. I was able to go find another job. And within 6 months of living there, I was able to move in and get a roommate with a best friend of mine. Like nobody treated me like I had just spent 6 months on meth and crack and
Mhm.
cocaine and pills. I mean, those drugs are scary names to say out loud. and nobody treated me that way. Everybody saw who I was through it all. And I mean, from there, we got fast forward to 2021. I ended up getting back with my kid's dad because I thought that I was the issue and the reason of the abuse and the toxicity and stuff. So let's try it again now that I'm healed. I was thinking back then. And there we went, seeking validation though, and feeling unworthy, and I was right back in the same cycle. But my spirit was strong, and I was able to let it guide me. A long process, it felt like, but it guided me to where I needed to go, and I gathered more tools in my belt and more healing in the midst of the chaos, and learned more valuable lessons that I wouldn't trade for anything through dealing with that. And in 2021, when the time came where I had to get out, I had a friend that I had met not even a year before then who opened her home up to me. She was a single mom of three, owned her own house. She was working a job plus building her own business, plus three kids on her own. And she
Mhm.
let me, like, invited me. I never asked. She told me her home was welcome to me. And I heard that for months. And finally, I'm like, I need you to really think about what you're saying because I might have to take you up on it. And I moved in with her. Me and my two kids moved in with her. And I mean, she didn't give me a deadline. I didn't have a job. I was in school. I had quit my management job and was in school at that point when I moved in with her. And there was no expectations and no judgment and no, well, you need to make sure you do this and then let's get you on out. Like, like I'm doing you a favor. Don't take
Yeah.
advantage. It was just love. And she just let love flow.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been roommates now since 2021. And it's the most beautiful family I've ever been a part of. It was just so beautiful. Her kids are my kids. And I
Mhm.
mean, there's like very big challenges here and there, combining families, but
Right.
I've gotten exactly what I needed. She gave me space to live in depression because I still was battling.
Mhm.
She gave me space to mess up plenty because I ended up working for her business and I was not good. I was not good at it. I was My depression for me was really intense with house chores and cleaning and organizing and she saw the value in me still, even when I felt like I was worthless in the house because I just didn't have it in me to be who I wanted to be in the house. But she saw that I was great with kids. She saw that I put love and value into her life and her kids' lives and really pushed me to embrace that and accepted my flaws, but still communicated and believed in me enough to motivate me or change how we did things. Like it was just all beautiful love that helped me heal in ways that I didn't even know I could. And because of her, I felt the space to say, you know what, this ain't working. This ain't working. Let me try therapy. You know what, this job wasn't working. I'm not doing a good job for you. Let me go ahead and just try music. And she was okay with everything. She was even more than okay. Like she's been just the most beautiful problem solver in my life ever. And it's just the backs of these people who love me. My mom, oh my God, my adoptive mom,
Yeah.
so beautiful. Like she opened her home up to me in 2018. But you know what I'm more impressed with is there was a time because we've had our ups and downs, with adoption. Adoption alone can be messy and hard. And
Yeah.
then I got a bond with my birth mom, and that alone can be hard. Seeing your daughter bond with her birth mom, so many ups and downs with various things. But I watched her say, oh, I see that I've hurt you. Oh, you're telling me you need this from me because through my therapy, I learned how to communicate.
Yeah.
And she took my words to heart and she found a way to heal some things in her that changed our relationship. And I've never seen a woman change so much, transform so much in ways that I can't even put into words. But I don't know if she thinks this, but it seemed like to me it was a mother's love that she said, my daughter needs this from me. Let me go heal so I can be this for her. It's the most beautiful relationship that I could ever dream of. And she doesn't give me anything that I can even put into words. It's just that love. So the backs of these people that love me, that's it.
Do you realize you did the same thing for your children, though?
Yeah. You're right.
I'm
Yeah.
using your words. Oh, wow. Your children left space for hope for you.
Yeah.
Oof. Ooh, come, come on, God, who's breaking generational curses, who's breaking generational strongholds. And there goes that beauty of healing and reconciliation again. What if, Beth, you had such animosity and such hatred and anger for what your mom wasn't able to do? You would not be experiencing this generational healing going on. You wouldn't be able to experience, like when you were just talking, it's almost like you were floating talking about your mom. You were
Yeah.
talking about another woman that was your mother and the beauty in watching her become and heal. But you did the same thing for your babies. Ooh, child, God, you
And let's
uh,
just go ahead and say what
good.
you do, what you do and what you heal inside of you reflects in your world. Like
Yes.
what you think you've lost, if you let that resentment eat at you, you're not going to get what you're wanting. But if you go and you heal and you be the change that you want to see in the world is so true because you're right. I healed. And the love of the mother that was inside of me ran everything. But more than that, I had to go to the love I had for myself in order to channel that love I had as a mother, in order to send all of that healing throughout every area of my life. It started with the love for myself. And that's the key. If you love yourself, others can love you. But I mean, it kind of is that simple. If you can heal what's going on with you, it heals other people. If hurt people, heal people. And I've seen it all through my life, and it's only more and more miraculous and bigger ways.
I want you to talk to someone right now that has said, okay, she keeps saying loving myself, loving myself. I gotta love myself first, but I don't know how to do that. No one has ever loved me. All I know is pain. All I've ever done was talk bad to myself and be horrible to myself physically, emotionally, spiritually. So, Beth, what can you tell them right now? What is the first step to loving yourself? And how can they practice this on a daily basis?
Yeah. Um, the first step is get curious. Never accept what it is that ain't working for you. Never accept your circumstances as a fact. That I would say get curious about how to love yourself better because the way you speak is representing the way your brain is thinking. So
Mhm.
if it's, I don't know how to love myself, I've never been loved before, get curious about how you have been loved before. Even if it's small, like you went to a library often and that librarian connected with you and could see the potential in you and motivated you to do this and that. In order to receive something you want in life, you need to be able to look for how you've already gotten it, but you just didn't see it to begin with. Like that's been true for me anyway. So if you don't know how to love yourself and you've never been loved in the way that is safe for you, just take a moment and see what is in front of you in your life right now. And it might take creativity, it might take a little bit of a perspective change. In order to receive something, you got to be able to see something.
Mm,
And I've often found I have a lot more of what I want in my life than I realized if I just look for it.
yeah.
And that starts a whole shift of all kinds of different things. That one little shift, looking for what you want in your life, seeing how it's already there, changes a whole bunch of things.
Mm,
It really does.
that was so beautiful. I'm going to say some words to you, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind: acceptance.
Acceptance. I think acceptance, the word itself can often feel like contemplative, or if that looks some complacency. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there is definitely not a place of complacency. It's more of a place of surrender. I feel like acceptance is more of like an act of surrender.
Yes.
Just because I need to accept something is it's more so I need to surrender to whatever it is. Because to me, words are very important for me. They control my mind if I let them, and it takes my mind to places.
Mhm.
So if I need to work on accepting something, then to me that means I need to work on surrendering and what that looks like. Because your nervous system, especially for someone who's had trauma and unsafe patterns in their life, acceptance, it just sounds unsafe to me. But surrendering sounds more hopeful to me and makes my body feel better. I think that's part of the question you asked about how to love yourself. See what feels better to you and hold that dear. Like that is so important. What feels good to you? And if it doesn't feel good and it feels like there's nothing that's going to work, don't accept that. Surrender to the process because that's all it is. You're just going to continue each step until you find what feels good. That's it. And because I need simple. My brain doesn't work. I've lost my train of thought 3 or 4 times in this podcast so far. I can't expect too much of this brain. I surrender to my process, and my process is I need things to be simple. I need it to feel good. I need it to feel integrity filled. I need it to feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that's okay. But I never would have thought about that before I thought about how to love myself better. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like who would have knew that I actually have to think about how to treat myself in order to make myself feel okay?
Mm.
Like it's my job to make myself feel good.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Oh no. I love the way you change the word from acceptance to surrendering. I love words. I love to define words to really get to the etymology of a word, like what a word means down at the root. But I love surrender. I love surrender in the place of acceptance, but I also love it partnering. If I surrender to, first of all, if I accept who I am, and I think a lot of people are having trouble loving themselves because they just can't accept that they are good enough, that they are enough, that they are perfect. Perfect doesn't mean that you don't change, grow, and evolve. Perfect means as you are, God loves you. He loves you.
Mhm.
Now, I can also surrender to the fact that, okay, there are certain things about me that I can't change. I can't change my eyeballs. I can't. What is it that you can change about yourself? Can you change your weight? Can you change your depression? What can you change? But I love the acceptance and the surrender and just getting to a place where you love you as is. And the
Mm,
we're trying to love these versions of us that are not us. I'm trying to love me as Beth. That's not gonna work. I'm trying to love me as whoever wants you to be a certain way. That's not gonna work. Love me as I am. And then I change what I can change. Okay. The word music.
frequency. I think everything is a frequency. Our words, our very beings, our feelings, God. Like I think there's so much to frequency that we're learning as we go through science and everything. And I think it's all connected. And
Mm-hmm.
music is a way to just go straight through you and to your heart, to your soul. And it's healing. It literally is life to me as a dance. Like music is the symphony,
Mm-hmm.
and all of these feelings flow through me. I think that's a big part of what I've come to understand about these feelings is they have to flow, and music is such a great way to get those feelings moving and flowing and allowing so that I can receive. And there's constantly a movement with my feelings, and music is huge for that. The frequency, the sound waves just constantly waving up and down. That's what I see.
Love that authenticity.
Authenticity, I think, is our key to our purpose and our destiny and to God's plan. I don't pretend to understand everything, and I choose. I would prefer to be on the cautious side of I don't understand anything,
Yeah.
and I'm just taking it day by day. But something in me says authenticity is, Jesus's pattern,
Oh.
and what a great pattern to follow. The kingdom of God is within you, reigns in my spirit so much lately.
Mhm.
Authenticity is, the kingdom of God. That's where the inside of you comes out, and I think that's why it's so important for me to share my creative outlets because I think that's a part of everybody's authenticity. We're all creators, created in the image of God. He's
Yeah.
the ultimate creator. We're all creators. And that's where authenticity plays that huge part because if you're not living an authentic life, you're not allowing that creativity to flow out of you.
Yes. Yes. So I have a word for you that's going to actually kind of lead me into one of your creative outlets, which is writing. What does the word wild mean to you?
Oh man. So my children's book, Wild, I Want to Be Wild. Wild is an acronym. So W is willing.
I'll edit it.
I I is for imagine. L is for love. And D is for decide. So for me, it was about authenticity. outright, like how to channel that authenticity and explore it and bring it out into the world. And so it was from a child's perspective because my little goddaughter, she was like, I want to be wild. And I was like, you be wild. You're a wild woman. And it hit me so hard in my spirit. Like, I want to be wild. I want to be wild. I want to be authentic, living in my authentic state with no box containing my spirit or where I can go. Like, I saw myself as a cheetah running in a field, and I want that freedom and that wild, innate power.
Mm,
That's where that came from. So it's just a map to authenticity. You're willing, you're imagining. Like I think it's important to have a vision as much as it's important to surrender to the picture. You got to see it. You got to, like, in order for me to sing something, I have to hear it in my head,
yeah.
or it's not going to come out in the right key. I'm not going to have the right rhythm. I got to hear it, and you got to be able to imagine hope. Imagine love. Imagine everything working out because you need your body to be regulated and to be confident. So just because you're imagining something, you don't need to put yourself in a box. But that imagination is key to being able to really channel that creative inside of you. Love. Everything's got to be made in love. It's got to come from a place of love. Like things get hard, things get messy, things get stressful. But if you just say, what is the most loving way to go about this? What feels the most loving? I think no matter what, goodness is going to come from that. And then you
Mm,
just decide, because there's so many times where I've had the willingness, the love, the imagination, but oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it then. Maybe I'll do it there. No, like, especially when you're very in tune with your creativeness,
mhm.
just decide and let it flow. And it's going to do what it needs to do.
I want to be wild, and they can pick this book up on Amazon, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna have her website up in just a moment so you can just connect with all of Beth's goodness. And if you're in the North Carolina area, she is singing all over the state. Y'all need to go to her TikTok, her Instagram, and her Facebook. There are so many great clips of you singing. I love the remake that you did of, was it Waterfalls?
Scrub? No scrub? Thank you.
I love that. This has been an amazing time with you. I have so much more I want to dig into, but I will not hold you all day. Alrighty, so you are a glow up from the soul up coach. What does that mean?
I went back and forth on how to describe my coaching because I really didn't want the title of life coach. It's not something that I would have said in my brain, like, this is a desire I have. But it was in my heart so much that I had to figure something out. What's my vision for it? Because the desire's there. I need to understand what the vision is. The fact is, I just want to help people get what I got. And what I did was heal from the soul up. And the more I understood how to heal, on a soul level, the more my life has transformed with ease, and the help came to me. Like God just continues to meet you where you're at. If you
Mhm.
just focus on your soul. And I think some people would hear that and be very religious and be like, oh, you need to be good enough then. They want to put that sort of religious context with it. But no, it's about how you feel and loving yourself. It's like everything we've talked about. That's what I mean. That's
Yes.
that soul, healing that needs to take place. So go up from the soul up. All I'm doing is helping you get to know you and offering a better perspective from love and hope because I've had help along the way. I didn't come to
Mm,
any of this by myself.
mm.
Somebody helped me find it within myself, and that's what I want to do for others.
And here is her website. You can go here and find all of her social media links, her YouTube, her Facebook, her TikTok, her Instagram. Please check out her podcast. Beth, how have you been enjoying the podcast journey?
It is very empowering. I feel like it is such a great way to connect with people that I would have never connected with. I
Mm,
mean, to be able to have this platform, I never thought about it before. I never thought about it. And I just happened to get the little nudge to do it this year, and it was so fulfilling. And I just did a short season And that was all I needed to get a feel for, is this important enough to me? Yes, it is. So I'm about to
Yeah.
hit the ground running with season 2. I have a huge vision and some new things coming. I'm super excited. I'm going to interview some people to bring on to the show. You're going to get more of the quick 10, 15-minute episodes from me that'll give you very, like, intensely helpful yet simply to navigate steps to help transform your life or to motivate you in your creative journey. Really, it's just going to come from my heart. Whatever it is, it's going to be, impactful to your soul.
Love it. And it is called,
Your best friend, Beth.
and you feel like you are chatting with your best friend, Beth. Y'all, please check it out. I have one other question, and then you're going to end the show, and I'll tell you how you're going to do that in a moment. What does self care for Beth look like?
Self care for me looks a lot like silence
Mm,
and asking myself questions, getting curious about how I'm feeling.
yes.
What am I really desiring? Do I need to cut off from the world and just veg out and go back to my childhood where I'm watching these movies, that remind me of my childhood? Because sometimes I
Hmm.
just need to be a kid for a day
Yeah.
and channel that feeling and let that kid heal inside that's still there.
Yeah.
That felt so unsafe, and now I can feel safe when it pops out and wants to just be that kid again.
Mm,
Sometimes it's channeling the future me. What's the future meaning? I envision a lot and have these stories in my head. Maybe I got a song I need to write. Maybe I need to journal and see if there's some ideas that come out about creating a form of therapy. I think
mm,
it's called internal family systems therapy. And it just talks about there's different parts of you, and that'll kind of help you navigate where something's coming from. So the kid
mhm.
part of you, you got the mothering part of you. So I just check in with all these parts of myself and see what's needed and what needs to come up, and then I go with what feels good.
So here's how we're going to end our show. Normally, I end every episode with writing a verbal open letter to my dearly becoming audience, to that person that is working and striving to become the best version of themselves. Today, I want you to write it. The letters always start off with dearly becoming, but today you're going to start the letter off with Dear Beth. And I want you to verbally write this letter and talk to Beth, encourage Beth, inspire her. The Beth that is journeying on to the best version of herself. What would you say in an open letter to her? I'm going to give you the stage. You're going to close out the show. And I want to thank you for coming on today. And thank you so much for allowing all of our audience to hear what your journey has been like, what you picked up along the way, and for dropping it in our laps today. Thank you so much, Beth.
Thank you. If it heals somebody else, it heals me. And that's why it heals somebody else. This is just as impactful for me to allow to come out of me, for sure. And I think that's where I'll start. Dear Beth, I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to be you every day. Be you more and more and more unapologetically. Be as big as you need to be from the inside out. Do not make yourself smaller or shine less out of fear or out of shame or out of somebody else's opinion and words. Be all of who you are and take up every single inch of space you need to take up. Be as loud as you need to be to create the beauty you need to create. And just don't hold back, because if it heals you, it heals somebody else. If you feel it, that inspiration, it's not just for you, it's for somebody else. So take up that space. Be as big as you need to be and just let it do the job that it needs to do. You just be.
That was everything. That was so good. Oh my God, that was so